What's up, guys? Everybody's muted right now if you want to speak. Hey, Kathy, how are you?
Just fine. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Everybody's coming in. Let me turn on all these features here while I'm here. We've got several people speaking tonight, so we'll kind of keep it pithy. Hey, Christian, good to see you.
I feel inadequate with these backgrounds that these people have. Look at Chris Rice with background.
Like a green screen, my hands disappear. I could do the weather.
Chris with a Star Wars background, but I thought that might be unprofessional.
No, I think that's totally cool. You do it. You do you, Christian Wells.
Right.
Let's see. You can also do video and have the nice little flag wave.
Oh, I didn't know the video thing.
West Virginia scenery.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Or
I did a Zoom call with my friend on her birthday and put a real embarrassing photo of her student ID that was like the most worst picture ever, her freshman student ID. That was my background.
I know you guys are creative. We're here on the set of the Hodge Factor, if you didn't notice.
I was just going to say, you can't get better than the set of the Hodge Factor.
Right, I'm right here in studio.
GOP. Yeah, you know me.
Yeah, if you don't know what the Hodge Factor is, that's Hayden, my son Hayden. He has a little YouTube show that he started doing during quarantine. So that's kind of his weekly project. So it's on YouTube under the Hodge Factor, if you don't know.
The Hodge Factor.
It is great, y'all.
I need to get up.
He loves it.
I tune in every time.
Good. All right, guys. Well, I don't want to spend a lot of time. It's 6:30. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm sure more people will be tuning in as we go along. So anyway, let's go ahead and we'll start with prayer. Lord, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this time together. Lord, I just pray over everyone during this coronavirus pandemic. Lord, I pray for everyone that is sick from it or has been affected by it. Lord, I pray for their healing right now. Lord, I thank you for everyone here today. I just pray that you watch over them and bless them. Lord, I pray for our leaders, all of our government leaders, that you would just grant to them wisdom to be able to lead the people through this thing with wisdom that only you can grant. Lord, I pray for all the business owners, Lord, as they try to reopen. I pray that you'll just protect them and help them to lead with wisdom and help them to make good decisions. I pray for all the workers going back to work. I pray that you put your hand of protection on them and that you're with them each and every day, Lord. We just thank you for all these things. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So now we'll go ahead and say the pledge. I've got a flag on display back here so everyone can have something to look at. So I'll go ahead and start leading that. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and
to
the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good deal. Okay, if you were on the Putnam County Republican Club meeting last month, you'll know kind of the rules of the game. What I prefer is for everyone to stay muted. If you want to say something, just physically raise your hand, and I'll try to keep watch for you. The way we take the yays and nays, when I ask for the yays, you'll raise your hand and hold it up until I say, and then when I ask for the no's, you'll raise your hand and hold it up until I acknowledge, and then you can put your hand down. So if everyone's good with that, we'll go ahead and move on. Well, that's the guidelines. Is Secretary of State Mac Warner on? Dave, is he on?
I do not see him. I just was texting with him not long ago.
Okay. All right. Dave, alert me when he comes on.
I will.
I'm going to go ahead and let him go because I know he is under certain time restraints, but we'll hang on until he gets on. So right now we'll move on to the Secretary's report. I distributed the minutes via email. Whoever wanted to review them should have the chance. I'll entertain a motion to dispense with reading of the minutes. If we don't want them read, anybody want to make that motion? Kathy's made the motion. Do we see a second?
I'll second.
Dave seconds. All in favor will raise your hand to say aye. All opposed, no. And the motion carries. Thank you very much. As for the treasurer's report, Sherry sent in a report. Nothing has changed from the last week other than $15 came in for a new membership renewal. Other than that, everything's the same. The check did clear for the West Virginia Day of Unity on June the 20th at FMC Park, where we rented that shelter. That is still up in the air. I don't know what's going to happen with that. If there's no objections, though, I'll keep an eye on it. And if we cannot hold that, then I will go ahead and work to procure our refund. So that's the deal on that. Other than that, the treasurer's report is just the same other than the additional $15. Reports of standing committees, we don't really have any right now other than that events report that I just gave. So executive committee report, is there anyone on here from the, is Shirley Searles on here? Shirley's not. I don't see anyone else from the executive committee other than myself. We did not hold a meeting this month on the county executive committee. Really, we just don't have any business to go over. We will be securing a location for a GOP headquarters in Putnam County later on in the year. It may be in the Liberty Square area, so we're still in negotiations on that, but nothing's set in stone. So we will let you know when that happens.
Hey, Tony,
Yes,
just one second. Secretary is one of these phone calls down here. Can you unmute him? He's one of the numbers on here. Can you
Okay.
unmute all or?
Yeah, let me do that. Hold on just a second.
You should be able to unmute them all and then people can go back and mute themselves.
Yeah, let me, I'm looking here. Trying to get everyone unmuted. I'm not finding it.
Can you just do individual?
Yeah, let me try to. All right, I'm going through and unmuting now.
Hey, now I'm unmuted. You got Mac Warner on now.
Oh, all right. Secretary of State Mac Warner, this is Tony Hodge, president of the Putnam County Republican Club. We're glad to have you on. I want to go ahead and let you get a chance to speak here because I know you've got a tight schedule tonight. So we welcome you and the floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you so much. Really great being with Putnam County crew. This is just another of these opportunities to speak to folks firsthand about what's going on, where we are in the process with this current election. I want to make sure everybody understands the opportunities to vote. I want to allay fears of the spread of the coronavirus during the election time frame. And then I want to talk about the absentee ballot process and the fraud potential and why we want to return to normal just as soon as we possibly can. But everybody knows that due to the coronavirus, we didn't want to put people at risk of making that choice between their health and then their constitutional right to vote. And that's why we went to the Attorney General and he gave us the opinion that every voter in West Virginia could use the absentee ballot process, but we had to stay within state law. And state law requires a two-step process to cast that ballot if you want to vote absentee. The first step is submitting an application. We couldn't go straight to a vote-by-mail system, nor would we ever want to. But the straight vote-by-mail system is only 5 states in the U.S. have it. That's where they simply send ballots out to everybody who's registered. You can imagine the problems here in West Virginia, the fraud, waste, and abuse. These states that do that, they typically get 10% of those ballots back as undeliverable. Here in West Virginia, that would mean 120,000 ballots going out to people's mailboxes with nobody there to pick them up. And so we all understand the problems with West Virginia's history in the past with voter fraud situations. So we are abiding by state law requiring people to send in an application. But to be fair, we sent those applications out to 1.2 million registered voters in West Virginia. And then those that are undeliverable, they go back and end up in the trash or sent back to the county clerk for them to have those names removed through the proper process. Those applications also serve as a function to check signatures for the independent voters or the non-affiliated voters to check whether they want to vote the Republican or Democrat ballots, that sort of thing. Gives us a current address to check and balance in the system. So that application is a very essential part of the whole process. And I think West Virginia has it right. We're one of 18 states that require that. And I think that is the best process. Then the clerk will send you a ballot, you fill out the ballot, send it back in. Now understand that each step in that process is tracked on the statewide voter registration system. So it's a manual process, and it requires a person picking up that application, filling that out on the computer. When they send you the ballot out, they again are manually processing that. And when the ballot comes back in, it is for a third time manually processed. So if right now somebody has not received their ballot, just understand there's literally thousands of these applications coming in at the same time. Thousands of ballots are going out. Thousands of ballots are coming into these county clerk's offices. These clerks are doing a fantastic job. Brian Wood is just one of the best throughout the entire state. He runs a great operation there in Putnam County. So have patience with him. And if you're in another county, just know that these clerks and their staffs are working overtime. But that's the process. And right now here in West Virginia, we have had 208,921 people request ballots. That's out of 1.2 million. We're at about 16, 17% of everybody that's registered has now requested an absentee ballot. Of those, 194,098 have been sent back in or have been sent out to the voters, and then 81,639 have been cast. So folks, this election is in progress right now as we speak. If you're a candidate or running a campaign or interested, know that there's no time to waste. The ballots are being cast, and it's just going to continue to have these votes come in throughout now, and we're 4 weeks to the day away from this election. It's just going to get more and more intensive as time goes on. Some key dates for you. 1 week from today, May 19th is the cutoff date. If you haven't registered yet, you got to get your registration in, or if you want to change parties or update an address, you have until May 19th to do that. Then on May 27th, the early voting starts. You can vote in person at the early voting locations. You have between May 27th and June 6th for the early voting. And then the actual election is Tuesday, June 9th. And that is a state holiday because of the election. So people have more options to vote here in West Virginia than any other state. You have those three ways: absentee, early voting, and election day. And for military, overseas, and voters with disabilities, they can vote electronically. That's one of the ways that West Virginia is leading the nation. Now other states are copying our process, but there's no excuse for somebody not to participate in the election. And I want to turn to the sanitation of and the cleanliness that we're going through to make sure that people are comfortable when they come to the polling places. We are literally ordering barrels of hand sanitizer, tens of thousands of gloves, masks, face shields. The hand sanitizer is going to be at every location. We will have social distancing marks on the ground to make sure people stay 6 feet apart. I want folks to feel comfortable, and if you want to bring your own, wear your own mask, bring your own pencil, bring your own stylus, so you don't even have to touch the utensils there, or the machines where other people have touched. Have at it. We're encouraging people to do whatever they think is necessary to stay safe during this pandemic. The third thing that I really want to emphasize is the potential for fraud. Absentee ballots introduce a whole lot of other areas where fraud can occur. The tampering of the applications. It can be duplication of the ballots, trying to vote more than once, voting somebody else's ballot. Some of what we're seeing, or not seeing, but are afraid of, would be coercion or intimidation. That would be if people are called to a union hall or to a church or somewhere and say, hey, let's fill these out together, and someone feels pressured to vote for someone that they otherwise wouldn't. I want to know about those things. If somebody is doing something that causes you suspicion, I want it reported. The number is 877-FRAUD-WV. That's the way to report it. We have about 4 times as many investigators as we've ever had in the past to investigate election fraud. We've teamed up with the U.S. Attorney, Mike Stewart, the Attorney General, Patrick Morrissey, the FBI, state police. We got this covered. All I need is to hear from you. I need that report of what you're hearing and seeing. And the main thing that I'm concerned about is ballot harvesting. I know there were some attempts at that in the last election. It's illegal in West Virginia. You can't collect more than 2 ballots, your own and one other person's. If you have more than 2 ballots, then you're breaking the law, and I want that reported. So if somebody is going around door to door in an apartment complex or at a senior citizen's home or something in the neighborhood and saying, hey, let me take your ballot for you, no. 1, don't give it to them. 2, report them for me so that we can look into that. I do intend to have this go back to normal just as quickly as possible. The gold standard in elections is voting in person on election day at a precinct where there are trained bipartisan poll workers working to answer questions using a ballot marking device. That is an electronic system where you get the paper back, so it's a voter verified paper trail. That's the gold standard recognized across the globe. But because of the coronavirus, we didn't want to force people into that situation if they didn't want to go vote in person. And that's why we opened it up to the absentee process. With that, what I'd like to do is turn it over for any questions and answers before I summarize the key points and the key dates again. The main place to go for election information is our website, govotewv.com. govotewv.com. If you haven't checked out that website, I highly encourage you to do so. All kinds of information is listed there. Frequently asked questions are answered there if we don't get to your question tonight. And again, the other place to go is Brian Woods, the Putnam County Courthouse, the website, because if things change, if a precinct needs to be consolidated with another or some other movement occurs on the election, Brian will keep it updated on his website. So with that, Tony, I'll head back to you to see if you want to take on the questions and answers. I've got the key members of my staff, Mike Queen, Chuck Flannery, Brittany Westfall, our election director, chief of staff, communications, information technology. They're all on the line. So we'll answer any questions that people have for us at this time. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Secretary. That information was wonderful to hear. We do have a question. Chris, go ahead. This is Chris Raines. Go ahead.
Hi, Secretary Warner. This is Chris Raines. I was wondering if you have any kind of idea how long the canvassing of the absentee ballots may postpone election results.
It's a Chuck. Do you want to? Are you on the line? Are you able to? Are you unmuted and want to hand over that?
Let me make sure.
I'll go ahead and answer.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead, Chuck.
Oh, great. Wonderful. I got it to work. That's amazing. So election results, there was an executive order written by the governor that allows the county clerks to process absentee ballots when early voting begins, not tabulate them, but to process them. That it's, opening them up, stacking them, getting them ready for to be counted. So there is a time frame in which these ballots are going to be able to be prepared but not tallied. And we do believe that the bulk of the ballots are going to be in by election day. I mean, if I had to make up a number, I'd probably say 90% or so of the ballots will be in prior to election day. We've got a really early start on this, and I do believe that education to the public has gone very well to understand that process is available. Now, those ballots that are processed and ready to be tabulated will be tabulated and sent out with election day results when the precincts come in. So you'll see it very normally on election day. And I do believe at the end of the night, you'll probably see somewhere like an 80% completion of the election, maybe even more, maybe 90% complete. And we would hope that it might even be higher than that. But there will be a delay waiting for ballots to come in that are postmarked before the election, but not received before the election. So we would think that you would get the results on elections that aren't super close with a high level of confidence on election night, and it might actually be a little earlier than you're used to as well, because the volume at the polls might actually be lower than we're used to seeing as well. So you might get a good shot in the arm early. But for those really close races, we'll have to wait till canvass to see what those last absentee ballots look like.
Thank you.
One point I want to make, one point I want to make is draw the distinction. I talked about the two-step process. The first step is that application. You have to have your application in the hands of the county clerk by June 3rd. Okay, if you're waiting for whatever reason and not submitting your application, it has to be in the hands of the clerk by June 3rd. Now, if you want to cast your ballot absentee, you can wait and have your ballot postmarked all the way up until Election Day. And then, of course, that's why it may take several days for it to come in and be counted. But draw that distinction. You just can't wait and send your application in on June 3rd. At that point, it's too late. It has to be in the hands of the county clerk. Just know that this is an extremely important race. 3 of our 5 Supreme Court justices will be determined with this race. There is no runoff. There is no general election for those races. So please, that's why I'm emphasizing all the options that you have to vote. There's no reason for somebody not to participate in this election, even if they have the coronavirus concerns. That's why the absentee process is there. If you don't, if you're an independent, and about 25% of the people registered in West Virginia are non-affiliated or independent voters, they have to indicate on that application which ballot they want to vote. Otherwise, they will get the unaffiliated ballot, and that has the judicial races, levies and school boards, but it won't have your presidential, Senate, governor races and so forth. That's another reason for that application. Thank you for that question, Chris. Next question, please.
Next, I believe, Steve, did you have your hand up? I thought I saw another hand. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hey, sir, yeah, it's PJ Coffey, Mr. Secretary. Growing up in the coal, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, growing up in the coal fields, Madison area, and even down into Logan and Lincoln County, I've experienced firsthand what certain groups and certain parties can do when they have the power to make changes abruptly. What can we do? And not being super familiar with the West Virginia State Constitution, unfortunately, and all the legislation, but what can we do to permanently make a full mail-in ballot an impossibility for in case something nuclear happens and another group or party gets power and takes advantage of a COVID-2, COVID-3 to essentially have mail-in ballots and solidify their power base? Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the concern that's the basis of that question. And I try to stay out of the political arena in these discussions, but because my job is to run a free, fair election, and I'm speaking in regards to being the Secretary of State. But at the national level, you see this tug and pull. You have, it seems to be the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, liberals wanting to push all vote by mail. You have Trump and Republicans saying that there are increased chances for fraud, and therefore they want voting in person. I do mention that across the globe, it is recognized that the voting in person is the gold standard. And imagine back in the 2016 presidential race, a lot of information came out about the candidates just 4 days before the election. So if you have the absentee voting that's going on, here we are still a month out and it's going on. 80,000 votes have already been cast. If you have early voting, you miss those last minute, the October surprise is what it used to be called. You miss those opportunities for candidates to make revelations or last minute pitches and so forth. So it's really something that the political parties and the legislatures have to deal with. I don't even know that there's a way to permanently prohibit that. I can just say that as long as I'm Secretary of State, I'm going to continue to push for that in-person voting because it is the gold standard. You have less opportunities for fraud. You have people there trained who can answer questions and so forth. So I don't know if that fully addresses your question, but there are those increased. My problem is you hear national pundits and others say, well, there's no evidence of massive voter fraud. There doesn't have to be massive voter fraud. Many of these cases, especially in municipalities and so forth, it's a handful of votes that decides it. We have an ongoing case right now in the state where just a handful of votes are being challenged, and it can have the outcome of a municipal election. It could overturn several seats on the city council and that sort of thing. So it doesn't take massive voter fraud, and I'm very sensitive to it. That's why we've increased the number of people, investigators, and we've teamed with the Attorney General and U.S. Attorney and so forth to look into this. What I need is people like you and everybody else tuned in on this call to watch for, and if you see something suspicious or hear something suspicious, to report it with as much detail as possible so we can investigate and look into it. I want that ounce of prevention rather than a pound of cure. I want to stop it before it even happens. So I hope that addresses it. If there's anybody else, Chuck or Mike, somebody else that wants to weigh in on this, please do so. And if not, we can move to the next question.
Secretary.
Yeah,
All
did
right.
you have a follow-up?
Okay, this is Tony again. Let's see, Kathy, did you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Secretary, how long does it usually take for the absentee ballots to go out once they're received by the county clerks?
I can tell you there in Putnam County, it's only taken a day or so. They have been pretty much right on top of it from day one. In Kanawha County, it's a much larger county, much larger volume coming in. It could be up to a week or so. But across the state, the average is about 2 days is the lag time between the receipt and sending the application out. But if somebody hasn't received their ballot, I'd say after about 10 days, then it might be worth calling the county clerk. But I can tell you each day, Chuck is tracking this, and every day it's getting better and better across the state with regards to their arrival of the application and when the ballot is being sent out. Chuck, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to double down with what you just said, most 50 of 55 counties, you'll expect the same day turnaround. The counties very much seem to be on top of it. It's just those larger counties that you would expect, the large wave, a little slowdown from the beginning, but they're all getting caught up now. And Kanawha County is going to get the remainder of theirs back out the door in the next day or two. So we really think that lag from the volume from when the postcards were sent early on is going to be behind us, certainly by the end of the week.
I know my parents had sent in for their absentee ballot, I don't know, maybe about 2 weeks ago, and they still had not received them, and they're in Kanawha County. So they were wondering how long it took.
I was down in Kanawha County. I've actually been there several times, and there are trays of these applications that have come in. They just got hit with a wave. Let me tell you this, both Oregon and Washington State have been doing this for decades now. And even there, they said it took them about 5 years to get caught up, to get the manpower to get on top of this situation. And here we are in about 5 weeks trying to turn this thing around. And I think our clerks have been doing a fantastic job. And I'd simply ask for patience with the clerks. I'm confident, and they are confident that they're going to get this done. We're not going to have a Wisconsin situation where those applications are coming in all the way up to Election Day, and they had literally thousands of people who did not receive their ballot. Then they are in that situation, do I put my health at risk and go vote in person? We are very aware of that. We're trying to avoid that. And that's why Chuck's been tracking this on a daily basis. And I think that we're going to have a good result here in West Virginia. Thanks for that question, Kathy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Anyone else that wants to ask the secretary a question, go ahead and raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone. One thing I wanted to say, Mr. Secretary, what I heard you say in your opening statement was there is kind of a difference in a state, let's say like Colorado, that has only mail-in voting, and a state like ours. And the difference I see that alleviates concerns for me is that we have the application process, where, if I'm correct, in Colorado, there is no application process. Everyone just gets a ballot mailed to them, kind of whatever. But here you have to use an application. So that's one checkpoint, and then the ballot comes to you, and that's another checkpoint. Is that accurate?
That's exactly accurate. And when you really get into this, there's the list maintenance process, and I don't want to get too far down in the weeds, but very quickly, we still have a lot of inactive voters on our list. Our clerks have taken off 191,000 names, not people, but names from that list since I've been in office. But there may be about as many yet to be taken off. And if we were simply sending out ballots, ballots would be going to these empty mailboxes or where people don't live. Mm-hmm. And it's just unacceptable to me. I think that's why our legislature has gone with the application process. The clerks want the application process. So don't be confused. We are voting using the mail, but we are not a vote by mail state. That vote by mail is a term of art which indicates those 5 states, of which Colorado is one, where simply anybody who's registered, any name that's on that registration list is going to get a ballot. So if somebody died, a month before the election and their name hadn't been taken off the list, they're still getting a ballot. And to me, again, see, different states have different cultures. And ours goes back to the biggest one, of course, was the buying of the election of John Kennedy over Hubert Humphrey and the Democratic presidential nomination in 1960. And people laugh about it. They brag about it in Logan County about what happened. And it's never been funny to me that somebody could buy an election and so forth. And that culture permeated throughout Southern West Virginia for decades. And if you wanted a job, you had to belong to a certain party or vote a certain way. And we have to stop that. If it hasn't been stopped already, I'm doing my damnedest to make sure it gets stopped now. And that's where I'm asking everybody's assistance. If you hear something, let us know so we can squash it before it happens.
I have one more quick question and then I'll let you go. Those of us who are going to vote in person, will we be required to come to our precinct polling place with a mask or gloves?
No, you do not have to bring your own. We will have masks there and gloves and so forth. That's totally up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. We are encouraging people to bring their own mask that they're comfortable with. But we will have hand sanitizer, we'll have gloves, we'll have the face shields for the poll workers and so forth, cleaning wipes, all those sorts of things. In fact, I'll be in Wheeling tomorrow. I'm going to the distribution point where we're sending this out all over the state. And literally, and if you're in Kanawha County right now, they already have a full room full of hand sanitizers and wipes and gloves and masks and so forth. Just know that an awful lot of effort has been put into the preparation for this election. I appreciate you bringing that up. I really want to emphasize that so people feel comfortable going to the polls. By the way, folks, if you get a ballot and then change your mind and say you want to vote in person, you can do so. Just bring that absentee ballot with you and the poll worker will write spoiled on it, give you a new ballot, and you can do so. If you've got 2 applications, just work on one, return to sender and send it back so that they know that a duplicate was made, or if it, say, a previous tenant lived in that house or where you are, that'll be an indication of the clerk to look into taking that name off the voter registration list. If there's nothing further, know that we have a frequently asked questions tab on our website. Again, that website is govotewv.com. And that has all kinds of information. If you want to look up where your precinct is, what the voting hours are, what those key dates are, all of that is on that website. I refer you to that. There's a lot of information. And if not, feel free to call Brian at the county courthouse or call our office, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have at that time.
Well,
Thank you all for letting us talk with you this evening, and let's have a good, fair, clean election.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. We know that all these changes, you didn't bring them on. This stuff was kind of thrown on all of us. So we appreciate all the efforts you're doing to make sure we have a safe and fair election. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining us very much, Secretary Warner.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. So hopefully that was very informative. I appreciate all the information that he gave us, and you guys asked some great questions. So very good. So we'll move on here right in the order of business where we were. I was getting ready to do the Putnam County Republican Women's update. Let's see, Miss Debbie, would you like to chime in on that? Hold on, let me make sure you're unmuted here. There we go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. All right. So our meeting obviously is the fourth Thursday of every month. And this month we will be doing it by a conference call. Cindy will be sending out an email with a phone number and a code for everyone to call and put that code in to be on the call. It will also be posted on our Facebook page, so the information will be on there as well. As far as next month, well, let me get back to meet the candidates. Unfortunately, that is not going to be able to happen. So I'm so sorry, you guys. We were hoping to do that, but it's not going to happen. So she did want me to tell you that as well. As far as next month goes, June the 25th, we are planning to do a picnic to tell people more about our club, along with what we do in the community. We are going to provide the meat and have others bring some kind of a covered dish. That will be held at the Hurricane Reservoir at the park right there. So some more information will come out about that as well, which will also be posted on our Facebook page. And then the last piece of information is in September, we will be having our fundraiser dinner, and we will also be sending out information with that, which will be sent out later. Jessica Lynch is our guest speaker. It will be held at Sleepy Hollow, and we hope that you guys will come out and join us and be a part of that as well. So that's all the information that that we have at this time. So I hope everybody's staying safe.
All right. Thank you, Debbie. That was a great update. You guys always have something going on. So always full of information.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. Any unfinished business? Raise of a hand. Any unfinished business? I don't see any. Any new business? I don't see anybody's hand. Let's see. I do want to report to you real quick before we get to some of you candidates. Project 1776 update. We added 60 more Republican voters to the rolls in Putnam County. So now we're down, all we need now is just over 1,500 people to flip this county into a Republican majority. So that's our long-term goal. I kind of wanted to have this meeting as some of you may know, I didn't reach out to everybody, but I was thinking about doing a drive-in meeting. I couldn't get the details worked out at the last minute, so we couldn't do it, but maybe next month. I really want to meet in person, even if it's a drive-in style or a tailgate style, something where we can social distance with the weather getting warmer. I like personal meetings better than this, but that's all right. We're going to deal with it. And as the weather warms, maybe we'll get out and do some sign waving for some of these candidates. My goodness, that's the stuff I like to do. I'm get sick of sitting at home not being able to help these people, but we're going to try to get to that. So with that, that covers all of our reports and all that. I want to give these candidates an opportunity to get a couple words in. Some of them we haven't heard from at all. So I'm going to give each of you 1 to 2 minutes to give your pitch and let Putnam County voters know why they should vote for you. Is Judge Laura Dyer on? Let me unmute a couple phones here. Laura Dyer? I don't hear her. Let's see.
There is one, yeah, I was going to say there's one more called iPhone, but I don't know who it is.
Okay.
Tony,
Let me text
hers
her.
4274. I think her number is the 4274.
Okay, Judge Dyer, can you hear me? Every time I unmute it, it goes to mute. There we go. Judge Dyer. Judge Dyer, can you hear us? Judge
Let me see if
Dyer.
I can text her, Tony, if
Okay.
you want to move on.
Okay, thanks, Chris. All right, we're going to move on. Tonight we have one of our guests that helped us out back in the Putnam County Lincoln Day dinner when our guest speaker ended up having a grandchild, so we had somebody fill in. We have candidate for state treasurer Riley Moore is with us. Welcome, Riley Moore.
Hello. Good evening to everybody. Good to see you all again. Thanks for allowing me to speak with you. Is it all right to go ahead and address the group, Tony?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, and I apologize for any background noise here. My daughter's running around like a lunatic. It gets that way around dinner time. So seems to be the nature of these Zoom calls. So in any event, you know, I think I'm like a lot of other candidates trying to adjust to the new environment as it relates to campaigning during this COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. But really appreciate you all putting on this Zoom call. It's a great way for us to be able to stay in touch with different Republican county executive committees throughout the state. In any event, I'll just be very brief. I touched on some of this in my comments. I won't be too repetitive of what I'd said at the Lincoln Day dinner. I'm running on trying to modernize the treasurer's office, make it more transparent and accountable. To that point, right now, the state treasurer, who's the chief financial officer for the state of West Virginia, has not said one word, not a one word on what is the current state of the financial affairs of West Virginia as it relates to the investments and the management of the funds in West Virginia. Now, the IMB, the Investment Management Board, has announced $1.5 billion worth of losses as it relates to the pension fund and other investments that they take care of. The state treasurer does sit on that board. Now, the BTI, the Board of Treasury Investments, which he solely manages. Now, if you have children, you have College 529 savings account, that's included in that. He's not talked about any of those losses, how those losses would be made up, how much money we have lost. He's not said one word, and why? Because it's not necessarily politically expedient to do so. We have someone right now who is absolutely asleep at the switch. We know there's going to be tremendous losses here in the state, but how are we going to get out of that? Transparency is the cornerstone of good governance. It just is. That lays the foundation to good governance for any public servant. And he is dodging talking about this because he's worried about his election when we're trying to determine how we're going to set ourselves back on a fiscal solid path, assuming we were on one at one point, because there is such a lack of transparency in the office. And look, I think I'm going to inherit one heck of a mess if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected. But in times of crisis, you're going to find out who's a leader and who is not. And right now, that is what we're seeing. This is not a leader. This is not someone that we want in office trying to help us dig out of this hole. Now, talking with folks, I do know that there has been not tens of millions, but hundreds of millions of dollars perhaps lost in the College 529 savings plans. How are we going to address that? How are we going to address some of the CDs, certificate deposits, and some of these other things that affect our municipalities, towns, and localities? So I think there's going to be a lot of work to do if we are to win, but I would urge all of you to just get the word out. I know it's not the most exciting office, talking about money management and things like that, but it's $13 billion worth of your tax money that he is managing, and he's managing very poorly or not at all, and has been using in a way that politically benefits him, which one example of which is the almost 20 field staff that he has on payroll that are running around the state when they're able to campaign not only for him, but Democrats up and down the ballot. Mac certifies every election, Secretary Warner, state, municipal, local, town election in the state of West Virginia, registers every business and only has 5 field staff. John Perdue's got 20. What are these people doing? And they're making an average of $65,000 a year. Most of them have another job. And almost all of them are either part of a union, or they're politically involved, or they're part of the local executive committee, or they're a county commissioner. I mean, there is a lot to clean up in this office. And I think I went over my 2 minutes. I apologize for that. But once I get going, it's kind of hard to stop. So I apologize. But I can hold for any questions. I know there's a lot of other candidates here on the line, but just wanted to underscore that this is critically important. It's going to set the tone on how this state responds financially to this crisis, and it's going to affect our children down the road. How we respond to this, and we're going to lay a bigger tax burden on them down the road to fill the holes in some of these deficits that we have due to coronavirus, and I'll pause with that. So, Tony, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Riley. And to mention, you were a former delegate from the Eastern Panhandle.
Yes.
I've heard a lot about the blue collar 529 plan that you have. I think that's a great idea. I want to see that get implemented. So I think that's really cool. Another note too, this is being recorded, so I will put it out on our page. So anything that you say, if people aren't tuned in right now, they'll see it at some point if they want to, or you can pull the video and show them. That goes for any of the candidates here. Does anyone have any question for Riley? All right. Thank you, Riley. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. And since you're posting it, visit the website, moreforwv.com. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Stand by.
Okay. Judge Dyer, can you hear me?
Mr. President, Tony, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Honor. How are you today?
Thank you. I want to thank Chris Raines for helping me with the text messaging, trying to figure this thing out. Yes, thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. We're glad you could join in. I know you're out in rural West Virginia, which is the best part of West Virginia, but the floor is yours. You can take a minute or two and let us hear where you want to go.
Well, certainly, and I really do sincerely appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone on the line. When I was there with you guys on my birthday on February 20th, who could have known that this is where we would be when it comes to politicking? Tony, I'm like you. The fun thing about doing this, if there's a fun thing about this job application, is actually getting to meet people one-on-one, and unfortunately we're just not able to do that. So that's why this opportunity is so important, and I sincerely appreciate it. Anybody that didn't get a chance to meet me at the dinner that we had in February, my name is Judge Laura Dyer. I am a circuit judge presently. I am in one of two of West Virginia's largest circuits. We have Mason, Jackson, Roane, and Calhoun counties in our circuit. I'm based in Jackson County, but I did grow up in southern West Virginia. I'm the daughter of a coal miner, and I was the first member in my family to attend college. So I'm running in the Supreme Court races. As Secretary Warner said, it's very important that we get our votes out for the Supreme Court races and all of our judicial races, because that is our general election. There will not be any voting later with regard to your judicial officers. So it's very important that we cast our votes on those matters now. I know that we're short on time. There are other people on the line. I just wanted everybody to know, that I don't forget my solemn oath to uphold the Constitution. I'm very mindful that a judge's role in our constitutional system is to follow the law and not create the law, and to rule promptly, fairly, and impartially. I personally treat every case that comes to the court as though it's the most important case, because it is the most important case to the people who appear in each and every hearing. I'm very passionate about children. I'm a mother myself, and if elected, I will be the only mother on the court. I think that perspective is very important, particularly with how many children are currently in abuse neglect situations. This opioid issue that our state is facing, it is devastating families in our state, and particularly children. And as you all know, we've all been children. Hopefully you've had the gift of a child in your life, and it's very fleeting, our childhood. So the more quickly and better able that we are to assist them, the better their childhood and their outcomes are going to be for us. I do appreciate the opportunity, and I'll open it up for any sort of questions that anybody might have. And I will tell you that we do have a website. I'm also on Facebook, Judge Dyer for Supreme Court. Our website is Elect Judge Dyer for Supreme Court. Fortunately, I know you know Chris there, Chris Raines. She and I were both endorsed by the West Virginia Republican Party for our respective seats, as well as West Virginians for Life. So if you have any questions now, I'd be happy to take them, or if you'd like to send them to me via Facebook or through our website. Mr. President.
Very good, very good. Any questions? Raise your hand if you have a question. Or if you're on the phone, you can chime in. I have one question for you, Judge Dyer. If you could just take less than 30 seconds. It's a softball, but does your judicial...
I'll take all those I can get.
All right, here we go. Here we go. You've never heard this one before. I'm going to tell you right now. No, I'm just kidding. I know you have. Is your judicial philosophy, does it see the Constitution as a living document?
Well, I'll tell you this. When our forefathers wrote that Constitution, they were very, very wise. And to me, and if you get the opportunity to come visit me, and I really wish people would, I honestly do, because, people rarely come to the court because they're happy about anything. So if you want to come for a happy visit, I welcome it. But you will see the preamble to our Constitution on the wall in my front office. That document is very meaningful to me, the way that it is written currently. So I hope that's informative.
Yes, I think all the members would be pleased to hear that. So, well, I don't see any other questions. I don't see any other hands raised. Judge Dyer, thank you very much for joining us, and you're welcome to drop in on our meetings anytime.
I sincerely appreciate that, and I would sincerely appreciate dropping in on those dinners and the ladies meetings, because the food is fabulous.
Oh, they do great. They know how to do it right. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, very good. That was very interesting. I know the Mon County GOP, they did a big candidate forum with the Supreme Court candidates last night. That's on their Facebook page. You can go back and watch that. It lasted for a couple hours, I think. I think the candidates might have been wore out, but it was very informative. I see Chris shaking her head. It was very informative. A lot of good information there. So go back and see that if you can. All right, moving on. Let's see. How about it, Miss Kraus? You want to go next? Let me get you unmuted here. There you go.
All right. Well, I think most of you know me. I'm Kathy Hess Kraus. I'm running 8. Luckily, I'm unemployed. So I have it easy here during this time of stay at home. I'm still trying to keep busy, but I think we're all stuck at home and not being able to do much of anything. But Facebook, I'm trying to keep up and going. So hopefully people see me. I grew up, my district is Putnam and Kanawha County. I grew up in Kanawha County and lived there for, 30 years, a little over 30, and moved to Putnam County about 19 years ago. So I've lived in my district my whole life. My parents still live in Kanawha County. My brother and his family live in Kanawha County. My sister lives here in Putnam County, and I have another brother moving back from Mississippi once he's done with his residency, and he'll be living in Putnam County. So my whole family's in between both counties. So I consider both Kanawha and Putnam my home. So the district is close to my heart. My husband, Mark, and I, we have 5 kids from 14 to 31. In Kanawha County, I attended school all the way, kindergarten, all the way through college. As a professional, I was a microbiologist and a mycologist for the state of West Virginia and an analytical tech at Dow Chemical. I stay actively involved in both Putnam and Kanawha County, the Republican Club, the Republican Women, Rotary. I'm a board member on Soapbox Derby. Up until I decided to run for office, I was president and vice president of West Virginia Home Educators. I'm on the Republican Executive Committee, and I've spent about the last 8 years or so lobbying at the Capitol for anything from Second Amendment, homeschooling rights, term limits, and school choice, and whatever else happened to be close to my heart that was running through the Senate or the House at that time. And I've helped on several campaigns over the years, anything from local to statewide to a couple U.S. Campaigns, nothing major, but I've helped on a little bit of all of them. And I'm here. I want to keep West Virginia self-reliant, independent, and prosperous. And people can find out more about me at kathyforwv.com. And if you'd like to donate, I made it real easy. You can text Kathy to 22525. And you can find it on my website also.
All right, very good. That's I know making it easy to donate is a really good thing for a candidate to do. So that's great. And then, you know, Kathy, like she said, she's unopposed in her primaries. But I'll tell you, I've talked to her a lot and known her for a while now, and she is an absolute hard worker. She stays involved. She does not slack. And when we elect her come November in the general, she's going to be a hard worker for Putnam and Kanawha County. Chris, I saw your hand go up. Go ahead.
Kathy, you said I just wanted to get this straight. Kathyforwv.com. And what was the text for the donation?
22525. And you just text, you can just text the word Kathy to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. Any questions for Kathy? All right, Kathy, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right. All right, next on the list, let's see. We got first timer to speak at the Putnam County Republican Club, Board of Education candidate Christian Wells. We're glad to welcome him tonight. How you doing, Christian?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me, everybody. My name's Christian Wells. I'm a lifelong resident of Putnam County. Went to Winfield High School. My parents went to Winfield High School. Played football at Marshall, and then graduated from WVU. So I've got a little bit of the, I've got good blood on both sides. Running for Board of Education in Putnam County. I've got two kids, 11, well, she's getting ready to turn 12, and a 9-year-old. They're both crazy, and both are getting pretty good educations in Putnam County right now. At least that's how we feel. Things are going in a pretty positive direction. Clearly, like everything else, some changes needed, some things are needing to improve. This coronavirus situation has kind of put a spotlight on the fact that we need a little bit more on the technology side, one-to-one or something like that. In fact, a friend of mine sells one-to-one, and she sold one-to-one to Putnam County, and apparently it never got implemented, never got installed. They paid for it for a year, and it never got installed, and then they basically backed out the next year. I think whoever was supposed to install it probably was real happy with the way things were going and just never got around to it, or just got too busy. That happens, but you know, some things need to change, but our system is in pretty good shape, and I want to give every kid in Putnam County the opportunities that they deserve. You know, we've got 3 Putnam County schools in the top 10 of our entire state. Buffalo is struggling a little bit. They're back, I think, around 60 or 62. I'd like to take a look at what we can do to help Buffalo. They've got great facilities. They've got great people. Some of my best guys in my company are Buffalo guys. My vice president is a Buffalo guy. They obviously are putting out some really good people. But I just need to dive in and see what Buffalo needs, ways we can help them. But basically, that's my that's what I'm about. I am a hardcore conservative, and by God's grace, a Christian. I'm pro-life, pro-gun. Not that any of that matters on the Board of Education race, but it matters to Republicans. So anyhow, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Please cast your vote for me come June 9th.
All right, great. It's great to have you here. I'll just have one follow-up question for you. Well, one of them was on technology, but you kind of answered that. Oh, by the way, what is one-to-one? Quickly, what is that?
Basically, it's an online system for teachers to be able to connect to students, essentially one-to-one. They connect with kids. There's a huge library of books, one of the big advantages is if you use that system, you can pretty much eliminate textbooks. The kids can get everything online. I have some more research to do on it, clearly, but it basically looks like it could eliminate textbooks, which would eventually probably pay for itself.
Gotcha. All right.
The only problem would be kids having access on internet, so that's an issue.
Right. Especially for the more rural parts of the county. I know when you have internet access, it just kind of, you take it for granted and you just feel like every kid has it, but we found out during all this that not every kid has it. So that is a problem. So we'll have to have all hands on deck to get that going. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Wells? Kathy, go ahead.
I've got two different questions. One, I just want to say, I answer the 1-800 line for West Virginia home educators. So I get all the problems across the state for people wanting to come to homeschooling or people that are having issues with their boards of education. So as a board member, would you protect the rights of the homeschoolers and making sure that we don't have issues like some of the other counties? Right now, we don't have issues in Putnam County. I must say they've been really good. It's one of the very few counties that we don't have any issues in. But I'd like to know where you would stand on that, if you would.
Well, yeah, I've known a lot of homeschool kids in my time, friends with them. Tony Irwin is a big homeschool advocate there in Hurricane. I am totally pro homeschooling. The issue that comes across, everybody in government understands this if they push more homeschooling, and like the Tebow rule, I'm 100% for that. But, there's an argument that if you get too many people getting pro homeschool, then lots of kids end up not in our school system. Our numbers go down, then our funding goes down. And I can see that being an issue, but at the same time, homeschooling has been around for forever. And I don't think, they have the Tebow rule in Florida, and I don't think they have issues with kids just, forgetting about the public school system and all going towards homeschooling. You have to have some pretty special circumstances to be able to homeschool. My wife's a teacher, and if you give her the opportunity to homeschool our kids, she probably wouldn't do it because, this is proven to her that they can drive her a little bit bonkers. I 100% support people's right to do that if that's what they want to do. It is the right choice for a lot of people, and it's the right choice for a lot of kids. So yeah, I totally support homeschooling.
Okay, and I have one other small question. It comes with the implementation of charter schools. If one would come through the board and what would be applied for in Putnam County, what are your feelings with allowing a charter school into Putnam?
Well, that's a tricky one. In theory, I agree with the theory of charter schools. I think somebody would probably be crazy in Putnam County to put in a charter school. We do too well. I don't think it would be widely supported. I don't know if I would send my kids to that charter school. In other areas, I support charter schools. I think the idea of charter schools is great. I don't believe, do we have a single charter school in our state yet? I know the law has changed.
We do not. They were allowed in, what was last year?
Last year, yeah, right. Legislation changed.
Not this session, but the session before.
Right. So the law is there to allow charter schools. I wouldn't really have a vote as a board member. I don't believe at that level. I agree with the theory. I don't think necessarily it'd be great for Putnam County schools. We're doing pretty well. But I do like the, I'm Republican with a skew towards libertarian, and freedom of choice and freedom with things like that. I agree with. I think competition is good. So, but probably not the right thing for Putnam County right now. Perfect. I know it's kind of a milky take. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you.
PJ, go ahead, sir. Let me unmute. Hold on. There you go.
I'm good. Thanks. Hey, Christian made a couple good points there. One, starting off, he said that he's pro-gun, pro-life, and all that. And yeah, it does matter. Every person we can get on our side there that with those values matters, especially where our kids are involved. Second of all, you made another great point of Buffalo, and you made a point about competition. If with the number of kids that are going towards homeschooling, I think one of the board members said one time that they've lost a couple hundred kids within their tenure on the board. They started there was 100 kids, and now there's like maybe 400 kids in the county on homeschool. And up until COVID, I was 100% homeschool. I was ready to yank my kid out of school at a moment's notice, not because of teachers, but because of all the things that I had no idea that Mean Girls was a G-rated movie compared to what's going on in our high school. I just didn't. I was thinking back 1990. But COVID has shown me that kids need school. They want it. A lot of them do, and they should get that option. And with competition, I think if we improve our schools, there will be a competition there where you'll have the people who want to homeschool, yay, 100% for you, and those who want to go to public school, yay, 100% for you. And that competition there creates, if we start small, not saying that Buffalo's small, but it's at a size where the board can make some subtle changes, see big results, and then copy those throughout the county. I think you made some great points, Will. Thank you.
Thanks, PJ.
Very good. Anyone else have anything for Christian? Not seeing any hands. Christian, thanks so much for coming, man. We appreciate it, and best of luck. I know our club members working hard to get good conservatives elected, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, everybody.
All right, and again, for all the candidates, I know people are dropping in and out of this meeting, but it is being recorded, so everything you want to get out to the public, you will be able to get it out. So just keep that in mind. All right, so going on down, let's see. Putnam County Assessor, it's an open seat this time around. We got a couple of candidates here. So Gary Warner, you're up first. Go ahead, sir. Let me unmute you. Hold on. My bad. Jessica said unmute him.
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Hello, everybody. Those that you don't know me, I'm Gary Warner, and I'm running for the office of Putnam County Assessor. I've been a resident of Putnam County all my life. I come from a farming family. Mom and Dad raised 5 kids around the farm, excuse my voice, and expected all of us to pull our weight. It's hard work. I attended all 12 years of school here in Putnam County and graduated from Buffalo in 1978. Go Bisons. My wife Lisa and I have been married for 32 years. We've raised our son Jason here as well in Putnam County. He and his wife Kristen and their son Calvin live in Winfield. I started working for the assessor's office in 2014. I started out as a data collector and now I'm currently working on the commercial side of real estate. I also have 30 years of managerial experience where I was over multiple employees, done everything there from mopping the floors to running every aspect of that business. I want to take my previous experience as a manager and my 6 years at the assessor's office and continue to move Putnam County forward. I love Putnam County. Taxpayers in Putnam County, I believe, deserve an assessor who is knowledgeable, honest, hardworking, experienced, but most of all, one that will treat everyone fairly and equally. That's what this job's all about, and I will do that. I'm not the kind of person that can sit behind a desk doing nothing while waiting on the employees to take care of the taxpayer. I'll either be out in the field with the data collectors, behind the counter, or anything else that is needed. I want to make sure that the citizens of Putnam County are taken care of with the same care I would want if I was on the other side. I just want to make sure that Putnam County keeps moving forward. And with my experience at the assessor's office now, like I said, with my past employment, I think I would be your man for the job. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. Let's keep Putnam County moving forward.
All right. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Gary? I know the assessor's office is a very exciting office, a lot of people get fired up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right, Gary, I appreciate it, man. Hang around here.
All right.
Up next, we've got another candidate for the open assessor seat, Jared Summers. He actually called me today and thought he may not be here, but he ended up being able to come. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm sorry, a family issue came up, and I'm actually coming to you from South Carolina right now. I've been on the road all day, so appreciate the time. I guess a little bit about me real quick is I'm also a lifelong Putnam County resident, graduated from Winfield. Have dedicated my life to public service. I've served in 2 branches of the military as an explosives expert and a firefighter. I've been a firefighter in the county for 15 years, held every position from junior all the way up to assistant chief until I became the president of Winfield Fire Department. I'm also an educator in Putnam County. I teach over at Putnam Career and Technical Center. So I'm all about Putnam County, and it's my home. I want it to be the best it can be. If you've seen my cards, if you've seen any of my pamphlets, you'll see one of my little things up top is taxation is about stability, predictability, and I'm losing my mind here. I'm sorry. I should have my card in front of me, shouldn't I? No, but I just want, and all this starts with the assessor. So I want to be the person you come to. I want to, if it needs to be the same across the board for everyone. You need to be able to predict what your increases or are going to be. You don't want giant jumps. I believe like we had in 2015, where I think everybody kind of got a little bit of a scare when we got a big jump in. We jumped in our percentages, and we need to have incremental to where you're not feeling that all at once and where it's not hitting you at once. What's good for you is good for your neighbor. You need to know that if you're coming to, if you're going to build something that the same as your neighbor, that you're paying the same taxes. So I want to move us forward as well with in electron. I'm sorry, I've been driving all day. Oh, you gotta excuse me. So electronically, we need to be updated like that. We can't turn over paperwork to the fire service board and say, here's your papers, go through them and do your billing. We need to be able to hand them a thumb drive and say, here's our electronic version, stuff like that. So I just want to be able to bring us up to date, put us in the future, and make Putnam County great.
All right. Very good. Very good. Well, one thing I love about Putnam County is we produce a lot of good conservative candidates. And, that's what the primary is all about, is you can only vote for one. You wish you could vote for all of them, but I always think we turn out good candidates. So it's good to see that. Does anyone have any questions for Jared? All right. The assessor's office proving ever exciting.
Yeah, no one's outside of the assessor's office trying to rhyme your name like with Mitch Carmichael. So,
okay, right. All right. Well, all right, Jared, I appreciate it, man. I know you said you had a family issue going on, so we hope everything's good with that and safe travels back to West Virginia when you come back.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, moving right along. Again, we're going to keep it about 1 to 2 minutes. That was all I had on my list as far as people that I've spoken to ahead of time. I see some other candidates here, though. Since they're here, I want to go ahead and give them a shot. We'll go with people that haven't spoke before. I see Mr. Pinson, Jonathan Pinson on. Hey, Jonathan, can you hear us?
I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Go ahead, sir.
Well, my name's Jonathan Pinson. I'm a candidate for the House of Delegates in the 13th District. And just to give you a little bit about me, I was adopted out of a bad home situation when I was 15 years old. And that's how West Virginia found me. I was adopted and moved to West Virginia as a result of that adoption. So I started my 9th grade at Ravenswood High School. I graduated from Ravenswood. I spent until I was about 25 years old living in Jackson County and around Ravenswood. And then During that time, I had the privilege to attend the West Virginia State Police Academy, and I graduated the State Police Academy, spent a total of 7 years in law enforcement, and during that time, I had the opportunity to work for the Ravenswood Police Department, Ripley Police Department, Jackson County Sheriff's Department. So I know that portion of the district well. Jackson County makes up 1/3 of this district. And then I had the opportunity to step out of police work to pastor the church that I pastor now. For the last 9 years, I've had the privilege of pastoring Grace Baptist Church in Point Pleasant, which brought me to Mason County. So I've spent the last several years living in Mason County. And that has allowed me the opportunity to get to know now 2/3 of the district very, very well. These are my neighbors. These are my friends. I believe that candidates that we elect ought to legislate the same way that they campaign. So if they tell you that something's important to them on the campaign trail, then it ought to be important to them when they're in Charleston and when they're legislating. I believe that we ought to legislate with honesty and integrity. I believe that we ought to legislate with a sense of commitment to our constituents. And ultimately, that's why I'm running. I'm 100% pro-life, 100% pro-guns, pro-Second Amendment, 100% pro-faith. I believe in lower taxes and harder work. I believe that the working man ought to be able to keep more of their money instead of giving it away to the state and federal government all the time. And that's why I'm running. So we've got a website. The website's real simple. It's Pinson4House.com, Pinson, and then the word forhouse.com. And then we've got a Facebook page as well, very active social media presence. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be a candidate for the 13th district.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for Jonathan Pinson? No questions at all, huh? All right. Well, that's a big race over there. Is it I think it's the 13th district. There's 5 Republicans running, so that one's interesting. We're keeping a sharp eye on things over there, but we appreciate you stopping in, and good thing you did because you got an opportunity to speak. PJ, did I see your hand? Yeah, go ahead, sir. Let me get you unmuted. There you go.
Oh, my dog's barking. I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot. How many can we vote for over there? I'm in Diana Graves' district, so you know I don't know how many you can vote for. I know there's, my goodness, I think 4 or 5 Republicans and a couple Dems on the ballot over there with Pinson. I think he's doing a great job. But be honest with you, if someone came and asked me how many people they could vote for, I would have to take a wag at it. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure if Jonathan Pinson could answer, he would say 1, but you can actually vote for 2 in his district, as far as I know. And I'm seeing people hold up 2, so I think that's right. And then of course, Diana Graves' district, 38. As far as I know, she's unopposed over there, so so shouldn't be too much of an issue there. Anybody else? Chris, go ahead.
Jonathan, your Facebook page, does it have a specific name, or is it Jonathan Pinson for House?
I believe it is. I believe it's Jonathan Pinson for House of Delegates.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? Any questions for Jonathan Pinson? Jim, go ahead, sir. Let me unmute you. Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know the answer to this question, but I'm not sure that everyone else on the Zoom here knows. Jonathan, have you been to the Capitol and worked on legislative issues prior to deciding to run for the House?
That's a wonderful question. It's a wonderful point. I appreciate you bringing it up. The answer is yes. I've had the privilege for the last 6 years. I had the privilege to be a part of the West Virginia Capitol Connection. About 6 years ago, it might have even been 7 years ago, myself and Pastor Kevin Bartlett started the West Virginia Capitol Connection, and the purpose of that was to encourage Christians, to encourage pastors, to travel to the Capitol and to try to be a positive influence on legislators. So we started 6 or 7 years ago with just a handful of folks that were traveling to the Capitol and participating in that. And then over the last several years, it has grown exponentially. We've had the opportunity to see several counties, most of the counties in West Virginia, sending some folks to the Capitol during the legislative session. And we've had the opportunity to stand in your office and several other offices and just trying to be an encouragement, not they're upset about something. Our thought is there's enough negativity that fills your office, that fills the Capitol hallways. And we just want to go try to be an encouragement to folks. So we have had the privilege to do that. It's been a tremendous success. And then that allows us to be aware of legislative issues, things that are coming up that we can either rally behind or that need a voice of opposition. Hey, this is not a good thing for West Virginia. We ought to put the brakes on this right now. And I've had the privilege of doing several of those things as well over the last few years.
You know, that's one thing I know a lot of people like to see, whether you're in Putnam County or you're going to represent Putnam County if you're elected, it's just involvement. All of our candidates, or almost all of them, are heavily involved, and our voters like to see that. You know, this is like I was talking about Kathy earlier. You know, she's always out there doing something, so it's good to see involvement. We appreciate that. People see it, and it's a good thing. Any other questions for Jonathan Pinson? Seeing none, thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yes, sir. And again, this is being recorded, so it will be put out there. Joe Jeffries says he does not have a working mic, so he won't be able to speak, but you can visit joejeffrieswv.com, and he also has a Facebook page. He's a delegate in the 22nd district. It's a 2-member district. I think there's 3 people running in the primary for that on the Republican side. So that's joejeffrieswv.com. And he's pretty active on Facebook. If you need to reach out to him with questions, he's good to get back with you. All right, so let's see. Brian Scott, I think a delegate for maybe the 14th district. If you can hear me, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm Brian Scott. I'm running for the House of Delegates in the 14th district. I'm a faith and family-driven candidate. I've been endorsed by the West Virginians for Life. So I'm pro-life. I'm pro-Second Amendment. I would like to improve West Virginia's infrastructure so we can attract businesses here to West Virginia. And I'm for fiscal responsibility, government transparency. I would also like to answer a question you posed to another candidate early, Tony. When it comes to the Constitution, I believe in original intent. There's a reason why the founding fathers wrote down what they did in the Constitution, and that thing's not make-believe. It's not make up as you go, but that thing is written in stone, and it means what they intended it to mean. I have a very strong Facebook presence, so if you guys want to check us out on social media, Brian Scott for WV House of Delegates, 14th District.com, or you can also find us on a website at scottforwvhouse.com. And I would be more than welcome to take any questions.
All right, good. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it. I think I saw a hand. Was it Amy? Was that? No. Okay. I'm sorry. Any questions for Brian? The raise of a hand. Christian, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, this is kind of out of left field, but it's what we're dealing with now. What would be based on being somebody that would be in the House, what would be your recommendations to leadership right now as far as continue to go along the path we're going as a country and as a state, or do we need to get back to work?
Are you talking about like with the COVID-19 crisis right now?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With COVID-19 and all the issues that are arising from that, just what's your opinion on that?
I'm actually going to steal a line from my friend Jim down here. He had posted something about when he was in the Marine Corps, you kept the helicopter flying, you know, if you face something. I think I don't want to downplay the seriousness of the COVID-19, but at the same time, I think that we're doing a lot of damage to our economy right now, and it's going to be very hard to recover from. The other day I was driving home, and I actually saw one of the small businesses that's closed down. So apparently they have not survived the economic situation we're facing. The economic bailouts we have right now, that's not free money. You know, eventually somewhere down the line, the taxpayers have to make that up, and that's going to fall back on the workers. The problem is a lot of people are out of work right now. And I was literally talking to my wife earlier, and she made a good point. There's some people that we've heard talking that they don't want to go back to work right now because they're actually getting more money on the welfare system. And to me, it's kind of like we have a problem if we're rewarding people more for not working as opposed to working. And I hope that answers the question, but I think we got to have a common sense approach. You know, I think in New York the other day they were showing, you know, a lot of people who were in the hospitals were the people who were staying home. So I think if we practice good common sense, we can reopen some of our small businesses just as long as, you know, we're not taking, you know, just as long as we're taking healthy precautions. I think it's okay to begin opening up our businesses.
Good answer.
Did that answer?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a business, I employ about 33 people in Putnam County, and I can't get anybody. I need more people. I can't get anybody to come to work right now. I've got job requests out with 3 different services, and I can't get anybody to come to work because they're probably making more money at home, just like you mentioned. So I think we need to get back to work. But, you know, my parents are at risk. Wow. By God's grace, I'm not at risk. But I feel like we should quarantine those that are at risk, and the rest of the folks need to get back to work. But, hey, live and let live.
Yes.
I had a friend who did the calculations, and for somebody who makes $12,000 a year on unemployment right now, they make $37,804. If they made $20,000 a year, they now make $42,172. They make $30,000 a year, they now make $47,684. Up at 50,000, they still make 53,000. So it's only starts cutting out after that. Does it start going down to where they lose money?
Wow. There's one more thing I'd like to add here. I think this is the first time, and somebody can check me on this, but I think this is the first time in American history that we've quarantined healthy people. Mm-hmm. You know, it's one thing to quarantine people who are at risk or people who are sick, but we have also quarantined healthy people. And I think that's something else that we have to take a look at.
Hey, Brian, forgive me. I just don't have it off the top of my head. Is there a primary opponent for you right now?
It is a contested primary.
It is a contested. Okay. All right. I just couldn't remember, and I couldn't go in and look it up, but man, all very good answers. Before we move on, can someone reach out to Jonathan Pinson for me and see if he can come back on? We have a question coming in by text, but I can't ask it because I don't see him on.
I'll send him a message real quick.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. I appreciate it. Any other questions for Brian, candidate for the 14th district? PJ, go ahead. Oh, wait a minute. There we go.
Yeah. To put in perspective what Brian was talking about, Tom, you work for the Postal Service, right?
Yes, Tony. Yes,
yeah,
I did.
I did. I worked there for 15 years before I have the job I have now. The people now sitting on unemployment are bringing home about $600 a paycheck, give or take, than I was when I was delivering mail 40 and 50 hours a week on the west side. You know, up and down Red Oak Street, Barton, Watt Street, and then downtown. Yeah, working overtime, working every Saturday. Yeah, and you're right. Ben Franklin said, and I'll paraphrase, that the nation will be fine essentially until people learn they can vote themselves money out of the Treasury. And I think that's where we're at. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It's a strange thing because they gave us money, you know, to keep us home, but and that's working because people obviously are staying home because they're making so much more money. So you put yourself in kind of a double. You know, you're in 2 different places and it's hard, but I think right here we're all talking to the choir. I think we're all pretty much in agreement on this matter, but all good points all the way around. Brian, I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging in here. Again, this will be recorded, so everything you know that you have, you can put out there at your own will, so the voters can see it. Let's see. Joe Jeffrey said he couldn't speak up. Let's see. Anybody else who has not spoke? All right. Well, I don't know if this will be the last meeting before the election. I'd like to have another one. I can't guarantee it before the election. But in that case, since we're here, I want to go ahead and give Amy and Jim, they've both spoke before, but I just think they're the only two left today, and I'm gonna go ahead and give them another minute or so. So Amy, why don't you go ahead and kick it off from here?
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I lost you twice because my internet here in Leon, rural Leon, is not the best. So that's kind of gonna kick me off on what I want to talk about, I guess. This whole coronavirus, quarantining, and teaching from home has been a challenge because of that. A lot of my students, I have about 60 kids, 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade math students, trying to teach them via the internet. Not having reliable internet is very difficult. So it's a major issue that we really need to address. We talk about internet problems with we're talking about homeschooling earlier. You know, that makes it even hard for parents that want to homeschool. If you don't have reliable internet, you know, your resources are slim. So anyway, I keep looking at my internet to make sure that I'm connected because I'm afraid it's going to kick me off again. But anyway, I think I've talked to everybody that's on here at least once. Cheryl, I think you're new, but my name's Amy Grady. I'm a teacher in Mason County. I'm running for state senate in District 4. I've lived in Mason County my whole life. I live in like a little town of Leon. I teach at Leon Elementary. We have 165 kids, pre-K through 6th grade. It's a small school. It's the kind we need. You know, we need small schools, and we have that teacher-student ratio is a lot better. But I'm running for this seat because mostly I hear from people is that they feel like they need new representatives. They feel like that once you've been in the legislature for a while, then it's time for fresh blood, so to speak, I guess. You know, once you've been in there for a little while, then maybe your perspective gets a little shaken from who you actually represent. And I want to make sure that people know that I will be a representative of the people. So, you know, I don't want to talk very long because, like I said, we only have a few more minutes. But if anybody has any questions, let me know. You can shoot me a Facebook message, or my cell phone number is listed on the Secretary of State's website. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
All right. I think we're good. Amy, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yep. You're welcome. Jim, you want to go ahead? Let me unmute. There you go.
Okay. Yes, I'll go. And most of you know me, so I won't take very long on the personal stuff, but I'm a Marine Corps veteran, small business owner here. I've served in the House of Delegates for 8 years as a Republican, of course, and have been honored to serve part of Putnam County along with Mason County in that time. Have a very conservative voting record. Before I get into that, just a little personal note here. I'd let everybody here know, most of you know my kids because from the time they were real small, we were coming to meetings and so forth. And my son's 19 years old now, my daughter's 16. But my son officially is accepted into the Naval Academy. So he'll be going to Annapolis, Maryland here next month. So yeah, thank you for the applause. I'm proud of him. And my daughter, she's bound and determined that she's going to outdo him. So there are going to be great things for her as well. So this race is kind of difficult, I think, for all of us, and for me especially. Being a primary race in the legislature, Republicans were not used to this. There was a time when we couldn't even fill the ballot with candidates. Now we have several candidates for the same spots. So there's a particular reason that I'm running this time, though, and that's because I agree with the Republican platform that a lot of us here on this call helped put together. And as a majority in the legislature, we've done some fantastic things. We've done some legal reforms that are going to help businesses and individuals, and we've reduced a lot of unnecessary regulations, and we passed right to work that will help bring businesses into the state, and so people can get jobs that they're qualified for without having to join a union and all that kind of stuff. And then and we've gotten through some tough budgetary years, getting people back to work and that type of thing before this virus. So, but some of the things that we've gone the wrong direction, I think, have been on taxes. We've had several attempts to actually raise taxes, and I've opposed those. We've not stuck with our social principles that are in our platform that most of us believe in. I think, family values and actually, you know, Mitch had been sort of my hero, because he was in the legislature long before I ever thought of running. And after seeing some of the things we've done, he actually sponsored this so-called Fairness Act that gives special rights based on your sexuality. So that's a thing that I think is going to be harmful to the state if that ultimately passes. It'll put us all in a situation where you can be sued because of somebody's perception. So we've expanded gambling recently and actually increased subsidies. We're still paying for the Greyhound subsidies, and we've added just a couple years ago, 2019 session, $11 million a year subsidy for horses. We've expanded access to alcohol and drugs and things like that. And we've passed some of the biggest, actually we've passed the biggest budgets with the largest amount of growth ever in the state of West Virginia with a Republican majority. And I think that we need to get back to our principles of smaller, more efficient government, less spending, and we've kind of gone the wrong way on some of those things. And certainly I know that none of this is going to be easy. You know, turning our state around and doing better is not going to be easy, but I think we do need some new leadership. And the Senate president, you know, Mitch is a Senate president. He controls the agenda there for the most part. And I think that if we continue passing bills that liberals wouldn't actually pass, we're going to lose our Republican voters. They're going to say, why would we vote for a Republican when you're passing liberal agenda? So I think this is important to Putnam County and well, the whole district, Putnam, Mason, Jackson, and Roane, and the entire state. So I appreciate the opportunity, and glad to see everyone.
All right, good. Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate it. We have someone labeled Galaxy Tab A that has their hand raised, but I don't know who it is. Let me unmute them. Go ahead, Galaxy Tab A. You're unmuted.
Is it me?
It could be. Who is that?
Hello.
Hi.
You got unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. This is Scott Cadle.
Hey, Delegate Cadle, how are you?
All right. I'm not very good at this electronic stuff. This is my first time for one of these. I don't know if you're looking at me or not, but
no. Thankfully, we're.
Anyway, I'm not going. You'll just have to hear me. Hey, I'm Scott Cadle. I'm running for House on 13th. I've been there a total of 6 years, 4 years, one time, and I decided to quit, and I didn't run for 2 years. And a few people talked me into coming back, so I put my name on the ballot. And I was raised on a farm. Since I graduated high school, I've been around trucks and heavy equipment most of my life. I have 45 years in trucking in one way or another. All of my life, I've been self-employed. There's probably been about 2 years of my life, if I sat down and figure that I worked somewhere and actually got a paycheck. So I know what it's like to be hungry, and I know what it's like to have to fight to make payments and stuff. And I've had people work for me and make payroll, and they've made more than I did a lot of times. But anyway, I'm running for the House, and I am a conservative. I have a A+ with the West Virginia CDL, an A rating with the NRA, and I am a pro-life. I just follow the conservative pattern. I was in the bar business, so I have voted for some of the liquor bills, but you know, I drink a little bit. But anyway, I'm here, and I appreciate your vote. And there's been some lies put out there about us, but you know, I'm here to defend myself. I didn't throw the first stone, but I'm going to defend myself. So that's about all I have to say this evening. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Delegate Cadle. We can't see you, but we could hear you loud and clear. And that was, you know, I think probably the most memorable floor speech that I can remember is that one you gave late in the session this past year. I'll never forget that. That was good, but very memorable. So anyway, does anyone have any questions for Delegate Cadle while I've got him on? No questions? All right, Scott, we appreciate it. And thank you very much. If you have anything else to say, just push that raise hand button again. Right now, I'm going to go to Jonathan Pinson. Thanks for coming back. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to be back on. My kids pulled in the driveway with my wife right as soon as I finished speaking, and my daughter burst into the house and asked me to take the training wheels off her bike. So that's a pretty important day.
That's a big moment. Well, family's more important than all this for sure. So you do what you have to do. We had a question come in by text, someone who's on the phone, someone on the executive committee. They asked, will Jonathan Pinson caucus with the Republican Party or the Libertarian groups if he gets elected?
I'll absolutely caucus with the Republican Party.
Okay. All right. I don't have any follow-up on that, but
yeah, that there has never been a question in my mind. There's never been moments hesitation about that. I'm Republican to the core, and I heard what Mr. Cadle just said. I appreciate Mr. Cadle, and I believe each of us on the phone appreciate Mr. Cadle and the fact that you don't have to wonder where he stands or what he believes in. And we need more of that in politics. The double talk and the present yourself one way and then go do another thing when fewer people are looking. That's not me. It's certainly not Mr. Cadle. So I appreciate the question. I appreciate if there was a question out there in someone's mind where I will caucus when elected, if elected, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to that, but the question's never been in my mind.
very good. Very good. Well, I think that's a very clear answer. Good answer. Anybody else have anything else for Jonathan before he goes out and rides bikes with his daughter? All right, Jonathan, thanks for coming back. I appreciate it. We're getting ready to wrap it up anyway, but I appreciate you coming back on. Does anyone else have anything to add at this point? I want to give a shout out to Dave Gilpin. He's a member of this club. He's always faithful to attend, but he's very helpful down there at the Secretary of State's office. And sometimes if I have questions about the election and things like that, he's very, very helpful. So he's a good local contact for everybody here in the club. So just want to tell him thank you. Does anyone else have anything else? I know Chris is ready to go. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm just pointing to my sign.
There you go, Chris. Yep, that's
Remember
it. Now,
Chris Reign for Justice.
Yes, the
Division
Republican
2.
Party, we have endorsed 3 candidates for Supreme Court, and it's good to go ahead and point out again, I know you guys probably know, but this will be the first time in a probably maybe our lifetimes where we'll have the opportunity to elect the majority of the court at one time. So that's a interesting thing. Riley, I saw your hand go up. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Just want to thank you and the Putnam County Republican Club for putting this on. This has been great, and hopefully we can start doing this stuff again in person. And just want to also congratulate all the candidates that are on the call. It takes a lot of guts to put your name on the ballot. It's not an easy thing to do, and thanks for stepping up and doing that. Obviously, a demonstration of how much y'all care about the state, and it's truly important. And in any event, just because others mentioned it and it sounded like it was important, just wanted to say that I have an A rating with the NRA, got an A plus CDL, 100% pro-life voting record, and certainly a conservative, had top 10 most conservative voting records when I was in the legislature, as rated by the American Conservative Union Foundation. And but just wish everybody the best of luck, and I really appreciate all and any support y'all can provide. There hasn't been a Republican treasurer in 92 years. I'd like to change that, and this gentleman I am running against, Treasurer Perdue, is their top of the ticket in terms of incumbents. There's nobody in higher office who's an elected Democrat right now than John Perdue. So let's go ahead and send a message here in 2020.
All right. I don't know if you could see this back here. I don't know if you could see that, but that's, I keep that.
Oh
on,
yeah.
yeah. That's
I got some copies of that.
yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I love referring back to that. So that was a lot of good things in there. Brad Krauser wrote that, and he's did a good job. So anyway.
Yeah, oh yeah, I love that he did that. And if anybody who's ever running for office thinks it's insurmountable odds or it's impossible to win, read some of those elections. Arch there, my grandfather ran back in the day. I mean, it's some pretty wild stuff. And you think about that registration that he was up against, beating a guy like Jay Rockefeller for governor, outspent 20-1 and all that other stuff.
Those are...
and not to mention, one of the best little tidbits in there is he wins by like a point in his first governor's race. State road workers go on strike, and he fires all of them during this snowstorm. They think he's toast. Rockefeller runs against him. He wins by even more than he did the first go around. It's pretty wild. So anyway.
No, yeah, we it was last month or the month before I did a little Republican trivia game with all the members, and your grandfather was one of the answers. We talked about how he had that helicopter crash out on the campaign trail, and ended up celebrating the victory in a wheelchair.
Yeah, he broke his back in that helicopter crash, and he actually had the ambulance take him to the campaign stop he was going to. He's like, I'm still giving a speech, I don't care, and gave him with a broken back.
That's amazing. Well, that's where I got that information from, in that book right there. So
Brad did a good job there on that one.
He did. I got this one on the shelf too. I don't know if anyone wants to read that one or not, but it is in the library.
Yeah, you probably need to add another chapter to that one. So.
Exactly. Yeah, an appendix.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody else? Oh, Dave, go ahead. I see your hand.
I just want to ask Riley, how much do those field reps for John Perdue make? Secretary Warner needs to step up.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. It's a joke.
Yeah, they got the averages out there. It looks like about $65,000 a year on average.
Yeah.
On the top end, they're in the 90s.
Dave's getting a new job.
I'm on a new job now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Look,
I'm kidding.
He's increased the payroll over the last 5 years in that office $750,000. I mean, it just keeps going up.
Wow. Well, we're going to change that. That's going to be the last Board of Work seat. We're going to flip that one, then we're going to have all 5 of them, right?
Yeah. We'll have a full house.
All right, good. Kathy, did you have anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot to tell. I wanted to give my endorsements. I have an A rating from West Virginia CDL. The only reason they didn't give me an A+ is because I haven't voted on anything, but they know I've worked with them for the last 8 or 9 years, so they know where I stand.
Yeah.
West Virginia for Life has endorsed me, West Virginia Coal Association, West Virginia Policy Council, West Virginia for Health Freedoms, and the Associated Builders and Contractors have all endorsed me. Hopefully we'll be coming in soon too.
Very good. Very good. Well, I want to thank all you all for sticking around. Like I said, it's been recorded, so we'll put it out there here in a little bit. But I think we have great candidates statewide on the Republican side, and then the ones that are going to represent Putnam County. I think we'll all have some really good candidates. I wish you all the best of luck. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if we'll meet before the election or after. It's hard to plan things out ahead of time with all this mess going on. But anyway, best of luck to each of you. And if you need anything from Putnam County, just feel free to reach out to me. You all have my number, and we'll try to help or give advice or something. I don't know. So anyway, thank you all so much. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Dave made the motion. Do I hear a second? Kathy second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.